You're listening to GradPro Book, where we go beyond the summary and deep into the critique. Today, we're going to dissect one of the self-help books that has taken the world by storm, a monument that everyone praises as the ultimate guide to life, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Listen, forget the idea that Atomic Habits is the silver bullet for all your problems. This book, with all its deadly simple intelligence, can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's a genius work on life optimization, turning you into a frighteningly efficient machine. On the other hand, it harbors a massive logical flaw, a promise of 1% daily improvement that, if you apply it blindly, will lead you straight into a deep valley of disappointment, or worse, make you feel useless for not achieving the remarkable results you expected. James Clear is truly a master at turning complex psychological concepts into easy-to-understand applicable rules. His 4 laws of behavior change: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying, sound like a universal key. But are we getting caught up in a game of micro-optimization while losing sight of the bigger picture of personal growth and true happiness? This book claims to be about remarkable results. But I'm here to ask, is that remarkable a dangerous romanticization of effort and an oversimplification of success? Or are we just creating a more efficient version of ourselves while missing something more important? We'll debunk it, one idea at a time. To understand the undeniable appeal of Atomic Habits, we must start by acknowledging the intelligence and power in James Clear's approach. This isn't your typical self-help book. It's a work designed to change how you think about change itself. And in that respect, it is truly brilliant. Clear begins with a classic but incredibly effective metaphor. A plane taking off from New York to Los Angeles, its course altered by just 3 degrees. A tiny, insignificant change at the start can lead to a completely different destination thousands of miles later. The 1% better every day figure sounds small, but when compounded over a year, it yields an impressive result, nearly 38 times better. This is a powerful way to illustrate the strength of the compounding effect, not just in finance, but in our habits. It strikes at the reader's psychology, offering hope that small, seemingly meaningless efforts can produce enormous results. It frees us from the pressure of massive action or once-in-a-lifetime transformations, focusing instead on the consistency of small, daily decisions. This is a very positive and accessible shift in mindset. Clear goes on to debunk another common misconception: goals versus systems. He argues, convincingly, that focusing solely on a goal, e.g., run a marathon, can lead to disappointment and a return to old routines after the goal is achieved. Instead, we should forget about goals, focus on systems instead. A system is the process that leads to results, the daily habits you build. This is a major strength as it shifts the focus from the destination to the journey, promoting consistency and sustainability. It also explains why successful and unsuccessful people can share the same goals, but differ in their systems. The concept of identity-based habits is another gem in the book. Instead of focusing on outcomes, e.g., lose weight, or processes, e.g., exercise daily, Clear encourages us to change our core identity, e.g., become an athlete. When a habit becomes a part of who you are, it becomes much more natural and easier to maintain. This is a deep insight into human psychology, explaining why some people maintain habits more easily than others. And the habit loop, cue, craving, response, reward, provides a clear, understandable framework for analyzing and intervening in our behavior. Clear breaks down how environmental signals, cues, lead to desires, cravings, which drive actions, responses, and ultimately lead to satisfaction, rewards, thereby reinforcing the habit. This gives readers a powerful toolkit to re-engineer their own habits. However, within this simplicity and power lie significant flaws. Let's start with the 1% better everyday math. It sounds appealing, but it can be seriously misleading in practice. Life is not always a perfect exponential curve. There will be times you hit a plateau, times you encounter uncontrollable external factors, and times your 1% better yields no tangible results for a long time. Clear does mention the valley of disappointment, where initial efforts don't produce obvious results. But he downplays its danger. For many, the valley of disappointment isn't a temporary stretch, but a bottomless pit, where they easily give up for lack of a light at the end of the tunnel. The 1% math can be a great motivator, but it lacks the nuance needed to explain the complexity of human learning and development. It doesn't address the quality of that 1%, or how to sustain it when you no longer feel motivated. Moving on to forget about goals, focus on systems. While valuable for promoting consistency, this is extreme advice. A goal is not just the destination, it's also the compass, the motivation to build the system in the first place. If you completely ignore your goals, how do you know where your system is leading you? It's like driving without a specific destination. You might be driving very systematically, but you'll never know if you're going in the right direction. Moreover, for many people, a big goal is the initial inspiration, the fire that ignites the will to change. Completely eliminating goals can remove this crucial driving factor. Clear is right that the process is more important than the outcome, but that process must serve a desired outcome. Regarding identity-based habits, this is an undeniably powerful concept. However, it also has a downside. If you focus too much on becoming something without concrete actions, you might fall into the trap of self-delusion. I am an athlete without working out is just an empty statement. Furthermore, trying to tie your identity too closely to a habit can create unnecessary psychological pressure. If you fail to maintain the habit, you might feel like you've failed at being that person, leading to guilt and complete abandonment. Clear doesn't delve into these negative psychological consequences. Now let's dive into the 4 laws of behavior change. Law 1. Make it obvious. Clear provides excellent tools like the habit scorecard to identify habits, the implementation intention to specify time and place, and habit stacking to link new habits to old ones. These are all extremely practical and effective pieces of advice. His emphasis that environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior is a powerful reminder of the importance of designing our living and working spaces. I agree that placing a water bottle in plain sight will help you drink more water, or leaving a guitar in the living room instead of in a closet will encourage you to practice. However, Clear's statement that motivation is highly overrated is too extreme. Motivation may not be the only factor in sustaining a habit, but it is the initial energy to start any change. Without motivation, you'll never cross the first threshold. Environmental design is a powerful tool, but it's not a panacea. In a work environment, you can't always put your phone in another room or keep junk food out of sight. Sometimes we have to rely on willpower and motivation to deal with a less-than-ideal environment. The one space, one use mantra is also too idealistic for most people who live in limited spaces and cannot dedicate specific areas to single activities. Law 2. Make it attractive. The concept of the dopamine spike is a fantastic insight into how our brains work. Clear explains that dopamine is related not just to pleasure, but to the anticipation of pleasure, and it's this anticipation that drives action. From there, temptation bundling, pairing an action you need to do with an action you want to do, is a clever strategy to make good habits more attractive. For example, only listening to your favorite podcast while exercising, or group influence, immersing yourself in a culture where your desired habit is the norm, is also sound psychological advice. But this attractiveness can also be a double-edged sword. Temptation. Bundling could inadvertently reinforce bad habits if you're not careful in your choices. For example, if you bundle watching Netflix with working, you might end up watching more Netflix without being more productive. Moreover, always trying to reprogram your brain to enjoy hard habits by only looking at the positives can lead to self-deception. Sometimes the difficulty is real and needs to be acknowledged. Focusing too much on primal motivators like social connection or status to explain all behavior can also oversimplify the complexity of human motivation, ignoring more personal, intrinsic drivers. Law 3. Make it easy. Clear emphasizes that habit formation should be measured not by time but by repetitions, and that the law of least effort is key. Reducing friction by priming the environment, e.g., laying out workout clothes the night before, and the 2-minute rule to start the smallest version of a habit, just 2 minutes, are extremely effective strategies for overcoming procrastination. He's right that motivation often comes after you start acting. However, an overemphasis on making it easy can create a trap. Real life isn't always easy. Over-relying on friction reduction can make you less adaptable when faced with unfavorable environments. Furthermore, some truly great goals require overcoming hardship, resilience, and the ability to sustain effort even when things are not easy. The law of least effort could inadvertently encourage you to settle for good enough rather than pushing you towards excellence. Too much automation can lead to performing habits mindlessly, lacking presence and meaning, and creating too many friction barriers for bad habits has its limits. Ultimately, willpower and self-control still play a crucial role. Law 4. Make it satisfying. This is the final and perhaps most important law for closing the loop. Clear explains that what is immediately rewarded is repeated. He proposes methods like the habit tracker to create immediate, visual rewards, providing a satisfying sense of progress. Don't break the chain is a powerful reminder of consistency. He also talks about the importance of an accountability partner and a habit contract to create immediate negative consequences for bad habits, thus making them unsatisfying. However, focusing too much on immediate rewards can cause us to overlook the long-term, intrinsic benefits of the habit. For example, the point of exercising isn't just to check a box on the habit tracker, but to have better health and mental clarity. If the reward is only a short-term satisfaction, we may not sustain the habit when those rewards are no longer appealing. The valley of disappointment problem reappears here. When you don't see obvious results, maintaining a feeling of success with just a check mark might not be enough to keep you going. Furthermore, using an accountability partner can create external pressure, but without strong internal motivation, that pressure could lead to resentment or finding ways to cheat the system. After dissecting Atomic Habits by James Clear, my feeling is that it's a monumental work, revolutionary for many, but it must be approached with considerable caution. On the positive side, the greatest strength of Atomic Habits is the accessibility and practicality of the tools it provides. Clear has succeeded in democratizing behavioral science, turning complex research into concrete steps anyone can apply. From the habit scorecard to the 2-minute rule, from temptation bundling to the habit tracker, this book contains a treasury of strategies that can be immediately put into practice. It has genuinely helped millions of people start building good habits and breaking bad ones. It's an excellent starting point for anyone looking to improve themselves, and it does a great job of shifting the mindset from "I lack motivation" to "How can I design my environment and system for success?" However, I find that the book, in its effort to simplify everything for accessibility, sometimes oversimplifies the complexity of human psychology and external life factors. It's like providing a powerful toolkit, but failing to include a comprehensive warning manual for situations where the tools might be inappropriate or even harmful. For example, the book doesn't adequately address cases where habit formation is affected by deeper issues like trauma, depression, anxiety, or medical conditions. For people struggling with the fusing challenges, the advice to just improve by 1% a day can become an enormous burden, leading to feelings of guilt and uselessness when they can't maintain even the smallest atomic habits. The book assumes a certain level of psychological stability and energy that not everyone possesses. It focuses too much on optimization and performance, while sometimes overlooking the aspects of mental health and self-compassion. Furthermore, while Clear talks about forgetting goals, the entire spirit of the book is still very results and performance-oriented. This can lead to a relentless cycle of self-optimization where you always feel you have to be 1% better every day. If applied too rigidly, you could fall into a state of burnout or chronic anxiety from the feeling of never being good enough. The ultimate purpose of building habits shouldn't just be to achieve remarkable results, but also to find peace, joy, and meaning in life. The book doesn't focus enough on this aspect. Another weakness is that the book downplays the role of external factors. While environment is the invisible hand is a powerful idea, it cannot negate the impact of luck, privilege, unfair opportunities, and larger socioeconomic forces. A person with enough resources to make it easy and make it obvious for their habits will have a significant advantage over someone struggling to survive day to day. This book, like many other self-help books, tends to place the full weight of responsibility on the individual without acknowledging systemic barriers. In comparison to other self-help works, Atomic Habits is a huge step up from books heavy on empty motivation or generic advice. It provides a theoretical framework and concrete tools that many other books lack. However, it doesn't have the philosophical depth of The Art of Happiness or the leadership wisdom of Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It is a technical book, a how-to guide, but it lacks the bigger why about life's purpose and meaning. In my personal experience, applying the advice from Atomic Habits, I have achieved noticeable success, especially in maintaining exercise and reading habits. I've used the implementation intention to clearly define my workout time and place at 6 a.m. in the living room. Priming the environment by laying out my dumbbells, yoga mat, and shoes the night before has significantly increased my show-up rate. The 2-minute rule of just starting by putting on my workout clothes and stretching has been an effective way to overcome initial procrastination. However, I also faced limitations. Temptation bundling with a favorite podcast while working out worked well, but only for a while. Sometimes the real motivation has to come from within, from the desire to be stronger, to be healthier, not from an external factor. Making my phone boring to reduce social media distraction was only effective to a certain degree. Ultimately, whether you use your phone or not is still a conscious choice. I realized that this book provides an excellent framework, but it cannot replace self-discipline, resilience, and the ability to adapt to inevitable failures. I still fell into the valley of disappointment when I didn't see results quickly, and I had to remind myself of the bigger picture, of the identity I wanted to become. Although the above criticisms are valid, we cannot deny that Atomic Habits is still a book of immense value. If we approach it with a critical mindset, without blindly believing in every promise, this book still offers many positives. First, it is an excellent starting point for anyone wanting to improve themselves. It provides a common language and a clear theoretical framework to discuss habits, allowing people to begin their self-improvement journey in a structured way. Many people have found real encouragement and practical guidance from it. Second, it has successfully shifted the focus from motivation to action and environment. Instead of waiting for inspiration, the book teaches us how to design our lives so that good habits become easy and bad habits become difficult. This is a very practical and effective change, giving people greater autonomy over their behavior. Third, the book encourages a long-term and resilient mindset. By emphasizing the compounding effect of small changes, it helps us appreciate consistency and patience. It's a reminder that success is not the result of a once-in-a-lifetime transformation, but the product of daily actions. Finally, Atomic Habits has helped raise awareness about habits in everyday life. It encourages self-observation, helping us become more conscious of our automatic behaviors and how they shape our lives. This is a crucial first step on the path towards self-mastery and personal growth. In summary, Atomic Habits is a powerful and influential book, an excellent tool for self-improvement. But like any powerful tool, it needs to be used wisely, with a clear understanding of both its strengths and its limitations. Read it, learn from it, but don't forget that life is more complex than any formula, and the journey to become the best version of yourself is an adventure that requires wisdom, compassion, and a deep understanding of yourself. Thank you for listening. Your support means the world to us, so please consider liking this video and subscribing to the GradPro Book channel for more in-depth critiques.